Good morning, everyone. So even if one of the really big highlights are coming up today, I think there was a few highlights yesterday as well that I'm going to give you a little revisit of. So we all arrived to the Fundamental Right Platforms meeting with the intention of really exploring what is the contribution of civil society for the future of fundamental rights priorities in the area of freedom, security, and justice. And as we all arrived, we had the opportunity to share a little bit about why it's important for each and every one of us to be here. And some of the answers that came from that is that we are here because we want to find allies, because we need to cooperate, and we need to cooperate more. We are here because we want to learn, share, and meet people. And one is saying, I want to make fundamental rights a reality. And I think he or she is not the only one. Another one said, I came here to understand why the FRA uses Facebook, even though it violates fundamental rights. So after that, Friso and Waltraud and Maya Saxling welcomed us all. And some of the things they were saying is that you who are in the room today, you're the experts on fundamental rights, and we want to benefit from that. And by your contribution, we can make this meeting a success. Then we went on to the two keynotes, and Max Schrems was picking up the Facebook thread because him and a few of his friends, they went out on an exploration to see in what ways Facebook are violating the human rights. And the way that exploration started was by printing out the Facebook, his Facebook profile, which resulted in 1,200 pages of data, including 300 pages deleted data, and including information that he never gave Facebook. So this was starting out, and what Max also said is that if you have a good cause, you can achieve what people think is impossible. And some of the ways you do that, for me, it was about actually the art of getting people to care and to get institutions to care and get organizations to care. And he gave us some suggestions on what is needed to be successful in that. And the most important thing is that was trust. That don't say anything that you're not 100% sure of. Also, a good relationship to the media, and of course, to have a good story is important. And last but not least, the persistency. And that to believe that you can actually reach your goals and to dare to aim high. Afterwards, Morten Kjærum, he, in his keynote, Fundamental Rights, The Way Ahead, he started out by saying we need to rethink our policies and what are the strategic priorities in the area of freedom, security, and justice. He also said there is no room for complacency, we must act. And some of the things he was talking about afterwards is almost like it was the recipe for change, which had those three elements of like, we need the diversity of people and of sectors. And when we have the common goal, like some of us in this room at least share around the human rights, then the last bit is the commitment, so actually stepping in to do it and doing it together. One of the other things was this thing about security, how can we have really good security and at the same time not violating the human rights? And those two are two sides of the same coin, so how can we work with both and do it really well? Last, he gave a few ideas on some of his thoughts, but I rather want you to come and have a look at those because there's a lot more ideas coming later. And he ended up by saying, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, then go together. And with that, we went into the panel debate. And the overall question for that was, what is the next level of fundamental rights in the European Union? And a lot of good things came up here. And again, the trust thing, the mutual trust between us, both within civil society organizations and across sectors. Also the focus of effective implementation of the laws, and to remember to consolidate the progress achieved so far. Another thing that came up was to challenge the data that governments are using to justify politics. And over here there was something about what already works, and the thing about persistence and ambitions and to join forces were some of the things. And then another one that came up a few times was the fight against discrimination. And Natasha, she said, we want human rights to be invited to the table. And Rosemary also came with a suggestion of inviting the academics more into the conversation. And basically, like we all encompasses what is civil society. So the role of civil society is in transformation and has an increasing voice. That was another thing that Rosemary said. And also with an invitation to bring us as civil society, to bring us in for our expertise, not just for legitimacy. That was a little bit on the panel debate. Also some of the questions like, how can we better include and use civil society? And an interesting question was also, have we exceeded our mandate with our work with the fundamental human rights? After that, we went into the working groups, and here the question was, what are civil society's concerns and contribution for making fundamental rights a reality in the area of freedom, security, and justice? And some of the themes that were up here were capacity building in human rights education, children at the EU borders, Roma integration, hate crime, enhancing cooperation between human rights players, and many more. And I put some of the challenges, success factors, and next steps up here already, but I also left some space because I think that we will be doing some more sense making today and find out what are really some of the general patterns in this. But some of the challenges that we found was that there is a lack of rights awareness, and that the quality of human rights education could be better. There is also a general lag in several of the conversations about the funding, and the denial of fundamental rights on the basis of migration status. And then the security-oriented approach versus trusting the good in people. Some of the success factors here was broad civil society coalition, that's something that makes our work successful, and effective communication with the public through media. Also to have a positive message and to putting the people first, be curious to see them, to hear them, and to involve them as much as possible. Really go to the source if you want to solve anything. And amongst the next steps, again, we have the collecting of good practices and also finding a way of measuring our impact. And another one is even to continue to strengthen the cooperation between and amongst the civil society organizations and look for the synergies. That took us to the last part of the day, which is the presentation of candidates for advisory panel elections. And you did the voting this morning, I noticed. And some of the things that came up there, I just thought I wanted to capture some of what the candidates says. So they had to speak a little bit to what are the reasons and what are they wanting to be that candidate. And one is a world of free of discrimination cannot be reached one nation at a time. We need to work together. And also I feel obligated to serve at the front lines of a world where we're living in a reality right now of hope and despair. And the last one, I bring the voice of the 28th and latest member of the European Union. So this was some of what we accomplished yesterday, and there is a piece of white paper for today that I'm looking forward to fill out with all your input. Thank you. Okay, so this is going to be a short one because we'll only get as far as I have gone today. But day 2, starting out here, we started with the voting for the advisory panel. And it's kind of interesting to start here because what we've just experienced at the end is the result of that. So, but that happened in the morning together with the exhibition where you all had an opportunity to go around and have a look at why people are here, what they responded, and also some of the outcomes from the working group sessions that all the working groups hosts has so beautifully distilled, like what were really the most important challenges related to the topic, what were the most important success criteria, and what were some of the next steps. So that's really valuable stuff that we will take further in the process as well. And after that, we went on to the floor is yours sessions that we've been working with most of the days. And there was a great diversity of topics. Some of the topics were, one of them from information to participation. Then there was one, people like LGBT people in the religions and human rights in Europe. And I am a visual person, so when I walked by and I saw this beautiful illustration of the gingerbread person 3.0, I got really excited. So I put that one on as well. And another one is freedom of education fully understood and respected in Europe. And is the EU putting its money where its mouth is? So these were all really interesting questions. And again, we've been trying as good as possible to, with some of the flip charts with the post-it notes from each of the group, to distill in these topics what were some of the risk factors, or what are some of the things that we should avoid in our practice working with human rights in society, and what are some of the success factors, what are some of the things, practice that we should aim to enhance and improve even more. So let's start with the risk factors, because then we'll end with the success factors. So some of the risk factors, one is the lack of support from civil society. Like simply, there are certain topics that are difficult and that civil society has a difficult time even be there to be concerned about, because maybe there is some fear involved. Also, there was another headline, which is the lack of data and the lack of dialogue. Another one is around this thing of like isolation, that also in many different ways. One of the ways that the minority groups are isolated, so it's difficult to have their voice heard. So lack of mindfulness about equality principle is another risk or danger, and also the lack of coordination across sectors was one of them. So then if we move to the success factors, one thing that again has proven to work really well is the whole co-creation and involvement. So this is really, like, looking back from the start and up until now, this is really one of the buzzwords. And also how we can be even more open-minded in our dialogue and really make an effort to find common ground. And I imagine that even in some of those sessions here, we feel that challenge a little bit of like, how can we really find common ground, and how can we put ourselves in the other's shoes? So whenever there are opposing opinions, how can we try to see it from another point of view? So that was another one. And the last one is then the better focused strategies is also a way of becoming more successful in our work. Then what we just had now is then welcoming the 6 newly elected members. And I'm going to record then Morten's speech, which might be the last piece of this meeting. Thank you.